This is the Tree Service Marketing Profits Podcast, where tree service business owners, industry experts, and marketing pros share real strategies to help you grow, scale, and dominate your local market. Hosted by Wesley Smith and the team behind Tree Service Digital, dedicated to helping tree service companies explode their online visibility and generate more business to grow. Want the tools to grow your tree service business? Grab the ultimate internet marketing checklist at treeservicedigital.com/checklist and join thousands of pros in our free Facebook group, Tree Service Marketing Secrets. Now, fire up the saws. Let's get into today's episode.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tree Service Marketing Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Wesley Smith with treeservicedigital.com. And today, our interview is with a business owner out in Texas. And sometimes we have interviews with experts in the field here in the tree care industry. If you're on the channel and you're watching it, like and subscribe to our channel. We've got plenty more interviews and expert marketing tips coming up shortly. But today we've got Kyle Cox, the owner of Texas Tree Transformations out in Texas. Kyle, thanks for joining us today, man. I appreciate you being on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having us. So I know I've been watching your show for a while, and we've been trying to link up and get this going. So I'm just glad to share my story and, share what's worked for me and what hasn't. So, right. So if we can shed some lights on some others, let's do it.
That's awesome, man. No, I think your story is going to be great. And there's just so many people in various stages of the tree service business, or heck, any blue collar business for that matter.
That's
so
right.
Our audience is mainly, the tree care space, but anybody in the blue collar trades or anything like that. I grew up in the plumbing business with my dad.
Yeah.
I dug ditches, slung around water heaters, did all that stuff, growing up on the weekends and after I got out of college too. So I'm familiar with like the working side of the business and all of that. And so we have some of our audience, is from different trades, but it relates no matter which one of those niches that you're actually servicing the public in. So you got started in the tree service business, how and when, and what did all that look like?
So yeah, I got a pretty interesting story. I like to always talk about God's transformation in my life, but I was raised in a small redneck country town, and I grew up on like a farm, right? So I was always swinging a machete and had a chainsaw at a young age, and then but so that's kind of where being able to handle stuff like that, or baling hay, or building fence. I kind of had a work ethic. Really, my grandparents and my uncles would just use me for cheap labor. That's what I found out later. Free labor.
I can relate. Yeah.
So but luckily that work ethic was instilled there. And I had gone through a real rocky road in my life. I couldn't really find direction for myself. I was always a super, super hyperactive kid that they told you need to be in school and sit your ass in this class and in this chair, and that's just not for everybody. So looking back, I probably could have been kind of a little bit more focused on a blue collar trade or some type of business, something that would really keep my mind occupied. But I really got into doing tree care. So my story, like I said, I'm pretty transparent with it. So I've been to prison 3 times. The second time I was in prison, I went through a program called the Prison Entrepreneurship Program. And in that program, you start working on your character first, because you can't own a business if your character's out of whack, or a successful one anyways. And but yeah, you create a working business plan. My plan was tree service, because I had grown up on a farm. I didn't really have too many skill sets, right? Because I've been in and out of jails and prisons, mental hospitals, all that crap. So that's how my life went for many years. So I'm sitting there, and they gave me this hope that I could be a business owner. And I wrote, you do a worksheet to create your name. My business was Texas Tree Transformations, right? So, and then you have to give a pitch to a panel. You have these business executives that come in, and you have to pitch them like on Shark Tank. So I did that, and at that time I relocated to Dallas, Texas. Well, I didn't have any money to really start or file my LLC, so I started Kyle's Lawn Service. I think my grandparents helped me out with a mower and a weed eater from Lowe. The weed eater had all those different attachments. It wasn't a piece of equipment for edging. It was the attachment that went on the end. And I got up to like 60 regular yard maintenance. My business was Kyle's Lawn Service, right? So I was doing that till I could get money to get insurance and file my LLC for Texas Tree Transformation. And I got up to 60 regular yard maintenances, and I was always been a risk taker in my life, and I was like, well, hell, the money's really in tree care, So I started doing climbing, and I like to use the term I was living foul because I was drinking. I started drinking. They had planted seeds from the program, but and then I filed my LLC once I got some money from doing lawn care in November 2016. And I stayed out of prison for like 3 years and was drinking the entire time. I got married during that time, and just my life had gone into turmoil again. I lost sight of um, all that character development, and I just got covered it up with alcohol and drugs. But I went back to prison for a third time. And at that time, man, I'm telling you, I did some pretty serious stuff. I went on a 3 county chase, high on methamphetamines, and, almost killed people. I had a trailer on back with logs. And, by the grace of God, man, I got a pretty, if I would have been in the regular county that I'm from, they would have put me under the jail. But luckily, that judge had never known me, and I signed for my time really quick. And at that time in there, I'm sitting there, I'm reading all your personal development. I'm reading, reading the Bible, and I hear God tell me, "Hey, man, you quit drinking. I'm going to give you the world," right? So at that time in there, I started studying for my arborist certification, and just, all of that stuff while I was in there working on my pitch. My name's Kyle with Texas Tree Transformation. I remember vividly people laughing at me and really clowning on me that I was going to go back out there and smoke crack or meth or whatever, whatever I was doing. And but God had other plans for me. So that's kind of how I got in there. I just tried to do something new because I didn't have a direction for my life, is what I like to say. So I was just trying to see what would work, right?
That's interesting, and when you were there, sounds like the first go at it, you already had the name described, Texas Tree Transformations.
That's
That's what
right.
you have today. That was the
Yes.
first thing. And then after that, so you were talking about you're in the lawn care niche, and a lot of people I think do start there. It's a good hustle, right? Even
Yeah.
as a young kid, you can hustle that up in your neighborhood. I did some grass cutting in my neighborhood, kind of some yard maintenance for a couple of houses growing up too. And it was my parents' lawnmower. So my dad's like, "Hey, you're using our lawnmower for cutting other people's grass. What are you doing with this thing?" So I did
Yeah.
some of that too. What made you kind of pivot from that lawn care, while you were in for the third time, to say, okay, I think I'm going to go and get my arborist license and do tree service? Was there something that sparked that?
Well, so when I was out here doing lawn care at the end, right before I went back, I would do everything. I would do all your, flower bed maintenance, just everything, right? Christmas lights. And as fast as that money was coming in, I'd spend it, right? I wasn't a professional at one thing. And so when I went back, I had the clarity of that I was gonna, really actually give this my shot, because, at that time, man, it was hard. Anybody that has a business knows how hard it is. I remember, man, at that time, I think Nextdoor had really just kind of popped off in 2016. So I was doing work for free to get my Google reviews up, my Nextdoor reviews. I'm telling you, I'd do stuff for free to go and get those recommendations on there. So then people would see that I had how many on there and would call, right? So knocking doors, I would do anything I had to do to make it. And, but the shift came when I saw I've always been a risk taker and risk my life and my freedom for unnecessary things. So I saw that in tree work, I can make $1,000 off of one job pretty fast by renting a trailer from a U-Haul and doing that, right? Instead of mowing, how many yards do I have to mow to do that, right? So it's just a faster cash. You got to risk a little bit more, but so that's kind of where that switch came. And then, I went to prison for a third time. I was drinking that whole time and ended up, that bad character kept coming out and it really crashed and burned me. But I'm sitting in prison. I had all the arboriculture books. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this. I had the time in the field before I went back in the 3 years. So I could use some of that for bypassing the college for my arborist. And I was like, I want to really give this my shot to be a certified arborist. And man, I can tell you, brother, when I came home, I was all into, the International Society of Arboriculture, man. I did every certification, from your tree risk assessment qualification, wildfire risk reduction, oak wilt qualification, and passed my certified arborist. And but man, I went pretty hard at doing that, right? But yeah, that's kind of the shift that I had. I wanted to be, if I was going to do it and I wanted to deal with high-end clientele, I needed to have those certifications, right? So
Yeah, no, that's a good point, and that's a great backstory on kind of how it all transpired. Because if when you're there, you've got nothing but time.
yeah,
So it's
that's for
like,
sure.
let's read, let's study, let's develop a skill, at least get that foundational knowledge built that you needed for when you do get out, you can just hit the ground running. And
Yes,
one of the
sir.
things I heard you say there that everybody that's a business owner needs to just embed in their brain is like, you got to do whatever it takes.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? And you went and you did some free work, discounted work. This is a common thing when you're getting your business started. Do some discounted work. Just do people a favor. Help
yeah.
people out. Do some senior work, some veterans work or something for a huge discount or just even for free just to get those reviews built up. Because I can promise you, once you get 20, 30, 50 5-star reviews, you're going to start getting the benefit of the doubt and getting selected as the company to do the tree service work a lot faster. So whatever it takes. I love that
Yeah.
statement and
And
that
and you're
phrase.
getting in there and building trust, right? If they don't get a chance to talk to you or see your character or see your work ethic, they'll never use you, right? So if you start building that relationship, whether you're doing it, I know we have overhead and bills to pay, but when you're starting out, it's relatively low, right? And just getting in there to let them know you, like I'm going to do whatever it takes to finish this job right and be a wise steward of your property and over deliver on what I tell you I'm going to do. Show up when I tell you I'm going to be there, if not early. These are the foundation values that that need to take place in that. So I love how you said that.
100%. In the beginning, it's more about making people happy, doing what you say you're going to do. And again, like you just mentioned, when your overhead's low, that's when you can go out and do things for people that are lower cost, maybe free, maybe a referral, take care of folks, go the extra mile,
That's
clean
right.
up, do everything you said you're going to do and more.
Yes,
And
sir.
I guess just that reputation goes a long way.
Yeah.
People want to refer you, and you're going to get more referrals. Then, once you start buying the equipment, building your business, getting crews and things, then you can, raise your prices because now you've got the demand and you've got the proof that you're going to do the right thing. That's kind of how you started
Absolutely.
going, right? From the beginning,
Yes,
kind of to that
sir.
middle stage of your business.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
good. That's
and
awesome.
then
So
so coming home that third time, and you got to think I had to build that. I think that at the first time that I came, the second time that I came home from prison, I actually started business. I think that we were like, $300,000 in gross or something, right? Like something small. It's just not no organizations, no systems, nothing, right? As fast as that money come in, you're moving so fast, and we confuse movement for progress, right? But hell, I'm probably losing money every job I'm doing because I'm not doing any measuring any
tracking
of these names.
things.
Yeah, I'm not
Yeah.
doing nothing, none of this, right? So
Yeah.
it's just moving and but like I said, when I had that third time in prison, I was like, I'm gonna come out there, I got God with me and I'm about to do this deal, all in or nothing. I had to rebuild all this again, you know what I'm saying? Like, and it was hard again. So the way that I started coming home this third time is nobody's gonna believe in me. Ain't no bank's gonna borrow me no money. Ain't nothing gonna happen. I'm a three-time, been to jail over 20 times, a drug addict, ex-drug addict. They don't My words don't mean anything because they've seen this type of action my whole life, right? So I came home and I remember I got an uncle and he financed me quite a bit of interest on this old, I think it was a 95 chipper truck and a whisper chipper, man. I'm telling you, if any of you guys in the tree industry, y'all know about that whisper chipper. I've been on the truck and trailer, I've done all that. But that whisper chipper are going to beat the hell out of you. I'm going to tell you, because as fast as that butt of that branch hits that damn wheel, it's going. So if you're in the way, you're about to get slapped. I'm telling you so. And anytime something would break, man, I remember on that damn truck, I drove that son of a gun around for my daily driver for 6 months. Like I'm telling you, when I went to Olive Garden, I'm driving a chipper truck anywhere. You want to talk about the definition of do whatever it takes. That's what I was doing, you know. So I drive that around. Anytime something broke, it felt like it was $10,000. So that was all my profit, just fixing old equipment. And I just really I started, really looking at my finances and measuring, having a budget, right, to see what was going on with my money. Because I knew previously from learned experience, as fast as it came in, it would go out. So I was like, I got to get away from these trucks because they're costing me too much money, cost me too much money. So at that time, I finally got a bank to do loan on a Bandit 12X PC, and it's like a 2-year note, and I paid it off relatively really quick, right? Because no one's going to give me a shot. I'm a felon, so I had to really show that to put a significant amount of money down to start building that relationship, and then
Would you say
that.
this is like in the first maybe 2 to 3 years of business?
Absolutely. Those were the hardest. No one's gonna leverage. I can't leverage debt or anything because my damn credit score was crap. I didn't have the work history or any of that stuff. And then when banks run that, they're checking to see if you're a felon. They're checking that stuff. They can see that stuff, and it's like just a story in the timeline. Well, how long you been doing this? Well, my story is really choppy because the way that my particular story is, right? So, and then there's a sister program that actually helped felons, and it's called Entree Capital. They're actually a sister program of that prison entrepreneurship program, right? So they financed me a stump grinder, an SG40 Bandit stump grinder. And they did that, and they just saw how everything started to go, and everything was kind of in a correlation to where I paid that chipper off at the bank. So that was great. And then I paid the stump grinder off, and then they financed me an F750 chipper truck, right? So it started piecing together there, and and then finally I paid that off, and I got a F550 Ford to go with that unit, and and then at that time I think we were doing like $948,000 gross. And I got the opportunity at the bank. I was like, okay, I'm gonna go all out. I've been a risk taker all my whole life. So I seen them up north with the grapple saw trucks. And I was like, I'm gonna try to get one. Ain't nobody here in North Texas had one of those. There was one in Austin, and I think a guy in Louisiana had one, but or by the border of Texas and Louisiana. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get out there and do that. And I would talk to a few of my friends. One in particular is you probably need to get him on the show. Johnny with SP Tree Service. He had gone through a similar situation with his crane. Asked a bunch of people, should he get a crane? And they're like, oh no, man, you shouldn't do that, and he did it. So I was asking him about the grapple saw truck, and he's like the same people that told me not to get it are the same people that call me to for him sub it out to, right? So I was like, all right, I'm gonna do it. The bank, we did that at the bank, and 2024 rolled around, and we had a bunch of storms, So that year we tripled our business. We did like 2.9 in gross in
You were set up because you had the
2020.
equipment to go knock it out.
Exactly, man. I'm telling you, we had I'm not we had back-to-back storms. We had a bunch of storms here in Dallas, and we had a barrel in Houston. And me and one of my buddies, James with Meadows Tree Service, he had a apartment complexes up in North Carolina when Helene came from, man. So we did 3 different properties for $590,000. It took us 4 days to do this. We're charging $5,000 a tree, right? And we didn't, it was funny because, and I laugh now, but it's a serious deal. Well, we didn't have them sign a contract for that money. So once the urgency was gone on that, then they want to say, oh, I think what 490 is acceptable. So I remember getting on that emails like, we look forward to doing future business with you. Like 490 is fine, right? $490,000 in 4 days. I mean, that's insane, right? So,
Yeah.
and then the way the situation unfolded is we were we got connected by the golf course, Biltmore Forest in North Carolina. Well, we were lower than the freaking locals over there because we had the grapple saw crane, we had skid steers, we had 3 giants, and we just had a mob of guys that we were killing it. That month, and I think it was November of Helene, we did $1.3 million between me and my buddy. And man, I'm telling you, that was crazy. That's like a one-off deal. That doesn't happen that often, but that was, I'm gonna tell you, and I want to share this because I'm not bragging or boasting on that money, because I'm gonna tell you, as fast as that money came in, I spent it trying to do too much, right? So then I try to get into doing a grapple truck stuff, picking up debris up there. I should have been building my contacts with the wonderful tree companies in DFW, instead of trying to venture off and try to chase money and do that stuff. So that's an awesome learning lesson right there that I went through.
Would you say that it would have been a little different if you were a little bit more local with these storms, or was it traveling across the country that kind of caused the chaos a little bit?
So me and James, we came here, even in Houston, we went down there with the grapple saw. We'd have 50, $60,000 days, because some of these jobs, I mean, you could do one pick and it's $15,000 for a thing. And we got paid out all that money except $7,500. So, that's pretty.
Take a little bit of the risk, and sometimes you don't get it, but you get
That's
most
pretty
of it.
good. But to
Yeah,
answer your question, yes, because I mean, anybody that knows that they have a tree on a house and it's pressurized, it's super dangerous, right? And a lot of people, the grapple saw crane, if you know how to operate that son of gun and you're fast at setting it up and your crew is aligned to work around that, I mean, man, you can knock some serious stuff out, right? So that the way that it kind of happened with me and my buddy is here in Dallas, I had all my clientele for when we had a storm come through. And then we had down there when we went down there, he had all his clients, right? So there's trees. I'm telling you, there's trees on houses everywhere, So and then, other companies would call us and we'd get stuff, drop stuff from their house, or they'd sub the work out and just make 15, 20% on the job. It's just really big networking. But yeah, to answer your question, it was the same. There we were at the right time because those apartment complexes, they had, man, I'm telling you, hundreds of trees across all of them. I'm
yeah.
telling you,
There's
it was
hundreds
so
of
crazy up
tenants
there.
too. Yeah,
Yeah.
hundreds of people living in there. Got
Yeah,
to get it removed
it was,
quick.
yes, sir. And then, tarping all the roofs. I mean, there was just a lot of stuff that, they had the urgency. Like I said, they had to get something done. So
For
just kind
sure.
of, but yeah, just, then like I said, we try to do the gravel trucks, which it's good. You got to have the contacts to do that. I don't like, there's a lot of, you got to wait for your money a lot. So you'll burn through, you know, waiting 6 months to get paid. I mean, we're
Because
still
those are
owed.
mainly insurance claims. Is that why?
Well, they're more like they were like contracts, so you're working under people, and they're waiting for government to pay them or just people to pay them. And some of the people, like we had a situation where we got burned for a lot of money, uh, tens of thousands of dollars, close to the $100,000 mark. But it's so this my computer's doing something on here. But yeah, so just got to take that loss. So that's a learning experience there, right?
Sure. Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
they're
You don't
they're,
know
they're
what you don't
costly.
know.
They're costly ones. So I mean, I remember
Absolutely.
on them trucks, I went upside down $135,000 because it's costing me near $30,000 a month. And if I went with the payments and insurances, uh, parking. So if I would have tried to hang on to them trucks for 5 or 6 months, it's the same as just taking a loss and selling them for a discount. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
You cut the ties quicker, and you don't have to
yeah.
worry about the
And
long term burn on
yeah,
it.
and like
Yeah.
I said, I'm pretty transparent because, man, I'm telling you, I've lost. I say that I've lost, but I've learned some valuable lessons from losing money. Has been the key learning factor, right? So, but
Yeah, well, you learn how to say, okay, look, if I stay in my lane, I have less percentage chance of losing money on all of these types of jobs, and you spread the risk out locally, maybe. And I
yeah,
want to go back to that when you first decided to buy that grapple truck. But speaking on Helene, we had lots of clients that would go in Helene because it really hit, the upper parts of Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. I mean, there was tons of stuff. It was just work for days and days, weeks
yeah.
and weeks. A lot of people. So a lot of people went there and they cleaned up, and it was needed at that point. But yeah, you guys coming from all the way across the country from Texas to North Carolina probably did cause a little bit of you're not in your home area. You've got a lot
Mhm.
of things going spread out kind of thin. All your guys out there, et cetera, et cetera. But when you were in that part of your business doing around $1 million, because a lot of people are probably in that
Yeah,
mindset now or in that framework right now where they're doing pretty well. They got to about $1 million. They don't have a grapple truck yet.
Yeah.
And so I think a couple of points you mentioned there too, was that, you want to make sure you have contacts locally when you get one of those, because we've had a couple of clients buy those and like, hey, we got to crank the marketing up. We got this expensive truck now, but we can knock out tree removals 4 times faster than we were before. So
Yeah.
now we need more jobs and stuff. So I guess, were you already to the point where you knew you had tons of work, you had a backlog of work, and you're like, if I get this, we're just going to be much more efficient. And like you mentioned, nobody around you had one. So you'd be kind of the go-to contact resource to come bring that thing out there for these bigger jobs so you can get them done
Mhm.
quicker. Is that kind of your mindset? Like, I have the
Yeah,
demand.
because like I
Let's
said,
go
we
ahead and
were
take
like
the risk.
948,000 gross at that time. So we already had a pretty significant book of business, right? And the grapple saw just makes stuff more streamlined and cranks that efficiency up to a whole nother level. So it I definitely say that making the contacts, yeah, because I didn't do all that. I didn't do all that first. I had a nice book of business, but it was kind of one of those things. I just jumped out there, man, and I was like, I'm gonna die trying to make it work. And you know, it's I wouldn't recommend doing it like that unless, I mean, because there's a lot of stress and you know, there's a lot of stuff that goes on to that because I mean, having an $11,000 a month payment, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But you
Well,
know,
going back to your philosophy of do what it takes. As
yeah,
soon as you got that thing and you got it in house, I see your
yeah,
social media postings and your frequency on there. And I think that probably had a humongous impact on your local contacts. Everybody sees you out there with that grapple truck every single day. So
yes,
that's going
sir.
to get people to gravitate towards you. They know they can trust you. You're doing these jobs successfully over and over and over. Okay, Kyle's my guy. I'm going to give him a call.
Yes, sir.
Get him out to the next one. I'm
Yeah,
sure that helped a lot.
yeah, oh, it definitely did. And a lot of it too is I always share everybody that we work for knows my story, right? And they know the type of person that you have to be to overcome something like that and the character adjustment. So there's a lot of people that, the reason we have been so successful is not only because of, the hustle or the team that we play together, but those clients, man, those other tree clients, we've got it to now that that's pretty much our lane there is working for other tree companies. We've transitioned mostly from being residential to probably 70% working for other tree companies and businesses that use our grapple saw crane. So, and that's kind of where, our specialty is. So, but going back to like we've learned a lot of stuff with that grapple saw crane on as far as coming out. We had all of our stuff branded, a lot of companies, if you got a grapple saw train and you're in tree work, people don't like that. You're pulling to their jobs. So we had a real growth portion after we took our logos off of our grapple saw crane and all of our equipment.
That makes sense because if they're hiring you, they don't want you advertising
Yeah,
on their job
exactly.
site.
And the way that I did it, I mean, one, you got to be a serious risk taker to get out there and get a grapple saw crane. I'm gonna tell you that right now. And a lot of people, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna buy this grapple saw crane. Well, nah, that's not it. Let me tell you what we had to go through. So I thought that we were just gonna get a grapple saw crane. Well, then you're putting debris on the ground. You need a bigger chipper, right? You need a bigger chipper, and then your guys can't feed that chipper fast enough, so you need a loader, right? You need that. And and then you got big logs, you got to figure out what you're going to do with those. So our system has really been, man, I'm telling you, the last year, man, I'm telling you, our business has changed so much where we got rid of all our chippers. We got rid of all of our chipper trucks. We just run an 82-yard grapple truck and the grapple saw crane. I got a support vehicle with a giant and an SG40. That's our whole business. So, and then
You
we
don't even
got,
need a chipper.
yeah, not here. A lot of people's like, oh, that dude, I promise you this. I don't care. We're gonna get a lot of blowback in this. But the grapple truck, 82-yard grapple truck will smoke anybody's ass on a chipper. I don't care what it is. That thing's like 3 to 5 times as fast. I operate with two less guys than when I had a chipper and chipper trucks. As fast as that crane puts it on the ground, that truck pulls up and picks it up and it's gone. And here in Dallas, they charge us, there's a place that charges us $100 to dump that big truck if it's just limbs, $175 if it's logs in there. You got to cut them up a little bit smaller. But then other places are like $300. And I'm like, $300 to dump is not that bad when, one, we have a lot of wonderful companies sending us work. We're trying to get in and out. And it's not that much money. I got two less guys, it's just the whole
Yeah.
system. I actually feel like it's the best way to go. I'm telling you right now, grapple truck and it is way better than chipper truck.
Yeah, well, like you said, you've got less people.
Hmm.
You have probably more overhead in the beginning because you're financing the thing, you're paying it down and everything
Absolutely.
else. But after you get that going, your name starts spreading. Now you've got more demand for this machine that you paid more for, but now you get more demand for it, so you can clear more money in less time with less people. Like you said, you would just go ahead and pay the dump fee instead of chipping everything up because
Yeah.
might as well. The margins are great already,
Mhm.
and so it affords you the ability to do that. And what's I think a couple of those things too. If you guys don't follow Kyle on social media, go follow him on Instagram, Facebook. He posts all the time and kind of he'll show you a blueprint of what to post every day.
Mhm.
Right? Kyle is out there very active. And a lot of people rely on, you can get a lot of business from paid ads, SEO, social media, email marketing, text marketing, direct mail, all these different things. But when you build up a following on social media, that is
Mhm.
free. You can
Yeah.
post for free every single day as many times as you feel like posting. And so we always advocate to post pictures of jobs, do videos explaining jobs, different things like that. Not everybody's comfortable with it, right? But if they are, you're going to get a lot of mileage out of that because people are going to naturally see on Instagram and Facebook what they usually look at. So if they're in
Mhm.
the tree service business, they're going to see you posting. If you got a grapple truck, then they're going to probably call you to come out and give them a quote. So, and
Right.
also it helps people know, like, and trust you from seeing you speak and talk on video and just be yourself, right? And that just goes a
Absolutely.
long way because you can't go meet everybody in person one by one. Typically, this
Right.
helps you kind of get an audience going a lot faster.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, we have a Brandon. He does all of our social media, and man, he's just a blessing, to us. And we have it set. We're doing a couple posts of reels a day, stories, and just I always like to be active, and like you said, and that's great. But if I could start over again, and I had the opportunity, if I went to another town and I had to do this, I would get the grapple truck and just find a skilled climber and operator, and that's what I would do. I wouldn't even go into because I think that that's the way that it goes is you start on truck and trailer, right? You start on truck and trailer, you get a chipper or chipper truck, and a lot of it is what I've seen because I have a lot of buddies and I try to be a mentor to people I can, but a lot of people do not manage their books like they need to be running them. And I don't care about the leveraging debt too much because I know that I'm a hustler and I can get business to pay that stuff, right? And but yeah, managing the books, the back end of the business, as there's a lot of business on there that you got to know this. You got to know your numbers, man. You got to know this stuff. So if not, you're gonna get to where you're older and you're not gonna build up nothing of worth that you can sell or you know or do it. And that's kind of the direction that we've shifted into. We have these A players from the grapple saw operator to grapple truck operators, very skilled individuals, man. And man, I'm telling you, they've been our team, the way that God's kind of just brought it and ordained that together is it's crazy. I'm telling you that right now, because these guys, I know everybody says, yeah, there's some badasses in tree care, and I'm not doubting that, but I'm telling you, these guys here, man, they can blow through some work and they're good, man.
That's it, man. When you got a good team, the business
I
runs itself and,
Yeah,
and
but
you
I,
get more
I
done.
empower them, because I empower them to get skill sets. I'm saying, listen here, if you're looking here to just be this, we're a company, we're trying to go. Everybody here needs to be growing, you need to be developing your skill sets, do this, training others, teach it. That's we're a team here. So everybody wants to make more money, so you want to make more money and not learn no more skill sets. That probably ain't gonna work. It's like let's keep learning and growing together. So but
Absolutely, man. Well, I want to be respectful of your time, man. So we got a couple of questions here
man,
too.
I'm
And
honestly, I got plenty of time, whatever you need. So,
awesome, man. Yeah, we can
yeah,
keep on rolling. I know everybody's enjoying this probably. And if you're on the channel and you're watching this, like and subscribe to the channel. If you're getting value out of this, comment, ask a question. We'll come back and
yeah,
answer it for you. One of the things that I saw too is you got really good rating on Google, and a lot of people kind of just sort of avoid getting reviews and stuff like that. But it's super important in today's online world for just converting people that are would-be customers. What are
yeah.
you doing to go about getting those five-star reviews after the job?
Yeah, so we just ask the customers, when we send our invoice to that's on there, the link, hey, give us a review. I'll have my sales guys, constantly ask them for the reviews, and just being, because it's easy to forget that and move on to the next job and you forget about the review or something like that. So I just stay really diligent in asking them. And, that's part of my sales guys. pretty much as part of his job description is he needs to get the Google reviews from those customers because he has that face to face with them. So it's not difficult, right? The guys they'll put these little on the jobs that we're not subbed. We have little Texas tree transformation signs and stuff like that. So just
Perfect. Yeah.
just
Do you have any
try to.
kind of like automations that go out? Like, let's say a customer, if you do like a job for a residential customer, they
Mhm.
pay the invoice. Do you have something that triggers kind of an automation to give you guys a review too?
So it's on there, not necessarily like for to because it's on the links on there, and then I'll have my sales guy actively do that, and then every once in a while we can see we'll send a email marketing out. But that's something else too. I wanted to kind of talk on there is like being because we've done this, and I feel like that's been a problem with email marketing. Like you be consistent with your email marketing. Don't just send an email marketing when you're slow and you need work again, right? Try to be active. And I think a lot of people, when they start email marketing, they do that. They'll send a text or post when they're slow. And I think that the consistency needs to be there. And that's something that we've learned, like being,
100%.
if you're sales guys, text that person. They didn't have to get, there's 100 or 1,000 damn tree companies around here. So for them to be able to give you the opportunity to work, man, shoot them a text or have your sales guy shoot them a text. Say, hey, we're extremely grateful for that work and the opportunity to serve you. That's just stuff like that people remember you from. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think one thing going back to those Google reviews that you're doing that's awesome. And a lot of people overlook the like value of doing it this way is if you
mhm,
have your salespeople after the job, it also gives you the opportunity to kind of do some quality assurance, like make sure that the crew did a great job on the property and made the
totally,
customer happy. They cleaned up and did everything they said they were going to do. So they got 5-star service. That gives you the opportunity when you call them to ask for that review and send them that link to see if they actually did that. So
absolutely.
that's a good tip. You
Yeah,
probably
another thing.
uncover some things doing that, right?
Yeah, and another thing too, like why the guys are on, like my sales guys, why he's there. He's like, what can we do to make this experience better? What could have we done to make it better, right? Just always looking for ways to improve, right? Most of the time they don't have anything to say, but because you're asking that question, who asked that question? Like, how can we make the service
Right.
better, right?
Most
Because
people are out, they're gone, when the
yeah,
job's over. So
exactly.
yeah,
But
yeah,
that,
yeah.
and I always like to say, I'm not arrogant or in this, but it's not hard to beat people in the industry, right? Because I'm going to tell you, like the fat response time, getting over there as fast as possible when they call. I mean, a lot of people want to take weekends off, but we're trying to build a business. Like if you call us on a weekend, we're there. That phone goes to two of my sales guys, and then if they don't answer, it comes to me. You know what I'm saying? So we're not missing you, whether it's a storm emergency work or if you're just calling, we're going to get that set up. And, because, there's bills coming in, you got payroll, you got this stuff coming in. So the faster you can get that customer an estimate, that's on them. Then we're just waiting for approval. So that's the first thing. And when you start, you don't have a lot of stuff going on when you're first starting, right? So you're like, if you notice when you start building a business, it grows because you're super responsive, you know? Like you're right there because you ain't got nothing else to do and you need
Sure.
money, right?
Yeah.
So I try to keep that same hunger with my sales team and just get them all there. As soon as you get it, look at the job, get them proposal, and then we're waiting for it to get accepted. So
Well, and that, you know what? Speaking of that, just the other day or a couple months ago, whatever it was, we were getting quotes on doing things for the house, handyman work, whatever the case may be, deck repairs, I don't know, new
yeah,
front door. You have companies that come out, you talk to them, everything's cool, but they literally ghost you on the estimate for a couple days or a week. And you have to
I
follow
don't.
up with them to send you the estimate. And that's
Yeah.
going to lose the business right there, man. So it's
They're not
speed to getting the
hungry. They're
estimate.
not hungry enough, brother.
They're
That's what
not.
it
They got
is. I'm
too
telling
many
you right
estimates
now.
to give, I
They
guess.
probably need to change whether I don't know if it's the owner operator coming out there or their sales team, put them on strictly commission or what the hell they got going on. They're living a little too good if they ain't getting them over quick enough because
Well,
that's their job,
to
right?
your point, I mean, the
That's their
quicker you
job.
get that estimate, the sooner they're going to make that decision because when you send out the estimates, let's say you send out 5 of them,
Yeah.
two of those people are ready to go right now.
Yes, sir.
And if you wait 2 weeks to send out the estimate or a week because you're so busy or everything's in chaos or whatever with your company, you're going to lose that business. It could have been
That's
five,
right.
$10,000 job, right?
Yeah, I'll
Twenty
tell you
thousand
right
dollar
now.
job.
I'll tell you a little bit about it right now. So I'm from a small country town outside. It's called Belleville, Texas. And I go down there and there's some tree companies there, but this is the same problem. They have all these people come over and they haven't, or they didn't return the call or they didn't get them the estimate. I'm like, dude, it ain't hard to beat nobody out here because one, y'all don't want to work weekends. Y'all don't want to do, I'm willing, I'm here, you know?
Yeah.
So it's just, you
Whatever
know,
it takes. That's the
yeah, that's
philosophy,
right.
right? And when you're in
Yeah,
business, you got to have that. If you adopt that attitude and that mindset with every facet of your business, you're going to succeed. You're going to beat
that's right.
everybody out because 95% of people don't do that.
That's right.
Um,
Exactly right.
let's talk
So,
about when you first got started. Some people may be in that mode right now too.
yeah,
And you've been in business now, what, 10 plus years, going on 10 years, whatever it is,
yeah.
somewhere around that neighborhood. Now, when you first start, you've got to build that momentum. You don't have a customer base, you don't have any
Mhm.
clientele. You got to stick with it and continue to do whatever it takes as you're building the business. And so, talk about like the momentum and like turning that corner where it just seems to get busier and busier, more revenue if you just stick with it and keep going, right? You
That's
got to
right.
continue to push forward and
That's
just
that
keep going.
persistence there, you know. So anybody,
Persistence.
like if
Yeah.
you're in business, man, and you don't like, you're not going to do sales, you probably ain't going to be successful, especially if you're the owner, only person and you're starting out. I mean, everybody you talk to just, and don't try to sell them something, just meet and introduce yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like just start a conversation because if they like you, they're going to use you for your tree work, you know? So make a connection. I'm going to tell you, and kind of, you're going to miss all the 100% of the shots you don't take. So just, hey, you tell someone that they look pretty, or hey, man, I like your haircut, and just start talking it, and then it goes in. Well, what do you do? Boom, right there, and that's the opportunity to give your
The
pitch,
five
right?
foot rule, man. Anybody within 5 foot of you, you're talking
That's
about your
right.
business,
That's
right?
right. What more heads you shake, the more money you make, right?
That's
So,
it. That's it.
yeah.
It
So,
really
I mean,
is.
that's what I would recommend because that don't cost you nothing but a little bit of time to do that, right? So, starting out, that's the biggest deal. You're going to have to knock doors. You're going to have to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of you may not be able to leverage debt or borrow money, or your family may not have no money, to do that. It's this, you got to build your reviews up, do work for free, whatever it takes. You want to, and that's the hardest part. I feel like that, man, it's so hard, man. It's
Yeah,
hard
because
doing
it's an
that.
uphill climb the first several years, but at some point it just almost switches to where it gets easier and
Yeah,
more of it's coming to you. And then now it's your job to create systems and processes and
yep,
hire people. But until that happens, you've got to hustle and you got
yeah,
to climb that hill. But at some point you hit the pinnacle and you start kind of coming down the hill where it gets easier and easier. The
yeah,
momentum's built, you've got the consistency, people know about you, you've got a bigger customer base you can text and email to, but
yeah,
you got to hang on and keep pushing
yeah.
forward. And
And
that's when
there's
it'll get to that point where it's really rewarding at that point.
absolutely, and there's two things that I think a lot of people in that little, and not in that little, but in that time frame, you're hustling for work, you're doing what you can to get work because you have bills to pay, and a lot of people, when you start out, you're usually a lot cheaper than you are when you start getting equipment and stuff. That's a pretty common deal. Well, the people that were with you from the start, you start putting them on the back burner, and you start rushing jobs, your quality goes down. And I did this in 2016 when I started doing the yard work, and I see a lot of younger guys start doing this. Well, now the people can't get you on the phone, and it's like, you're moving forward and you're rushing stuff now. And it's gonna end up biting you in the ass on your reputation. So that if you can really pay attention to that, that's something I see a lot of younger guys in business start to do, and they end up crashing and burning. So, and then the other thing too is like when, I was doing everything for my business when I started sales, climbing, I never worked for another tree company, but I learned how to climb. And I'm telling you, because I'm a risk taker, I will climb the hell out of a tree back then, and do it. But I didn't start having new ideas or new thoughts until I tried to, you know, replace myself, because I was stuck in the day to day. I'll be dog tired by the time I come home because I was climbing. You can't, it's hard to work on your business or do these things until you can start building that team. So I know a lot of people that I talk to, it's scary to start delegating and giving people responsibility. Here at Texas Tree Transformations, every person on our team has a company credit card. I don't hire people that I feel are going to burn me, or I just, I know their character and I know, and that's something there. So I just, that hiring, in the beginning, my two buddies, Edgar at Chipper's Tree Service and Johnny that I mentioned about, I was having such a hard time hiring a climber because I wanted them to have a freaking 800 credit score, and I wanted them to meet these certain characteristics, and it's not ideal because your name's on the line, right? So this is your baby, and you're scared to put that around, but man, if you don't, you need to find someone, you hear that can do 70% as good as you, and just start really putting them in there. I'm going to tell you, shit's going to happen when you start. Shit's going to happen when you start putting people into positions. So that's a big, big, big deal to start building your team, or you're going to be an owner operator your whole life. You're self-employed. You ain't never going to have no systems because you're never going to try. So the faster you can get through that, the faster you're going to start learning some stuff, and it's going to be
Yeah.
hard.
You got to delegate to elevate,
That's oh, I love that, brother. That's great.
and then, because you get to that point where you're the owner operator, but you, like you said, you're dog tired and you don't have
Yeah,
time to do all the other stuff that's essential to grow the business, get back to
yeah,
customers, follow up, all that stuff. You
yeah,
don't have the energy, you don't have the time. There's not enough time in the day. So at some point when that demand gets high enough and your schedule's full, you've got to start hiring, giving people authority to go make decisions, go take care
yeah,
of stuff, do these things. So just building the systems and
yeah.
processes. I think SOPs, just getting a good
Absolutely.
training too. I know the TCIA is a great organization to
Yeah.
get mentorship. You can get
And
business
you get all the
consulting and
books from there
coaching.
from Tree Academy for your guys that they got some good material. And that does, kind of going back a little bit, it does depend on what your goals are, you know? Because like for me, when I started out, I didn't really know, I had an idea how where I can grow, but I never thought I was going to be here. My whole business changed a lot when I was talking to myself, giving hey, my name's Kyle with Texas Tree Transformations in Prison, and everybody was laughing at me. I didn't have a grapple saw crane in mind. I didn't have that stuff in mind. So my whole plan kind of changed when I came home. But it's really about what your goal is, because I think a lot of people start business so they can have more time with their family. They don't have to be told what to do. They can build something of that they're proud of and maybe pass down to their kids. So, it's just if you're not doing that stuff and you're trying to pass a business to somebody that doesn't have no systems, you're setting them up for failure from the jump. So
Yeah.
you should build your business to be dependent without you, and as if you were going to sell that business, right? So that son of a gun should be able to operate without you and do that. And you as the founder, you're the visionary, and you need to be watching the finances and all that stuff. Make sure you're meeting your daily quota and just stuff like that. That's what I've done. But everybody's different. They may only want one other guy working with them, and they may get I heard you talking a little about some of the PHC stuff. They may just want to be an owner operator in PHC, and you can grow an awesome business with a couple guys on PHC business. Doing other tree companies PHC, you can do good at that too. So it's just really what's your direction. So I speak from experience. Like when I started, I wanted to build a $10 million tree company, and it's shifted because of all, now I like to stay right around 2 to 2.5, right there between $2 and $3 million, high net. I just feel like above that, you got too many people to deal with. It's a lot more extra. I like to be able to focus on some of the other stuff that I have going on, and them kind of grow more organically, right? So
Yeah,
that's
everybody's
how,
got their own goals with their business.
that's
Exactly like you
right.
said. We've
So,
got clients that want one crew backlogged a month or two all the time, do $1 million
yeah,
plus or minus per year in revenue, owner
yeah,
operator that basically just kind of oversees things, but the
yeah,
one crew is just efficient, knock it out, job to job every single day.
yeah,
Other people, they got 5 crews, right?
yeah,
They got land clearing crew, they got tree crews,
yeah,
so it just really depends on kind of what your goals are with your company. But I like building it with the goal in mind to sell it down the road, because if you build it that way, you're, as the owner, as the visionary, it's a good EOS term there, as the visionary, you are building the business for freedom as well, right?
yeah.
Like you can have the freedom of your business, still make the money,
Mm.
and just have a business that's a little bit less stressful for yourself as the owner, where you don't have to be pulled in so many directions every day because somebody else has a job to knock that part of the business out, not
You're
you.
building you're building your
You know?
team, you're building them
Yeah.
up and empowering others. So, but yeah, I remember when at that time frame, you want to have I wanted to have this massive business, and it was like gross, 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 because I felt like I had something to prove. And that gross don't mean shit. You hear that gross feeds your ego, net profit feeds your family, right? So it's about that net. What are you keeping after everything, operating taxes, everything, right? So that's where we've really shifted to, and we watch those numbers, right? Because what we got in the bank account, right? So That's
Very
been a
important.
really good
Yeah,
skill. Yes,
you
sir.
got to have it to invest for the future,
Yep,
pay for equipment, pay off equipment, get
that's
new
right.
equipment, those types of things to make you more efficient.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, man, this has been awesome, Kyle. We've been going
Yep,
for a good while now. Anything, maybe like what's Texas tree transformations? You kind of already told us between that 2 and 3 million mark is a
yep.
good sweet spot for you guys. You got high margins, manageable,
Mhm.
got good demand, good name in the industry, good name locally, and all that stuff. Any other plans into the future? I know you've got a new lead system thing that you now are
Sure.
offering to the tree care industry, which I think is awesome. We're going to do another podcast episode going over all that because I think it'll provide a lot of value.
Yes.
What else? What else is new coming up?
Well, so we've been really pressing hard into, gaining more tree companies to sub for. That's
Hmm.
really where all of our attention's going is to build those relationships to help streamline their businesses. And, we let them we'll wear their shirts, we'll put their logo on our truck, we'll do whatever we
Well,
we
that's
we can.
awesome. That's really
Yeah.
catering to them. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's kind of like the dropping of the ego deal because we really believe, man, we can bring value to these companies. And if we can help them grow, it benefits us in the long term because we help you grow. You're sending us more tree work or a storm comes through. Like who do you think they're calling for the grapple saw crane? They're calling us. Another thing too is we've been really connecting. The thing that I like about the versatility of a grapple truck is not only doing it for your own jobs, but you can do debris pickups for other companies. So that pretty much pays the note there, and that's a real versatile piece of equipment. So that's just something else I like to share on that because a lot of people don't think about that.
that's
But
true. So once somebody does a massive tree job or they take down 5 trees or whatever it is,
yeah,
you guys can go over there, pick up the debris, haul it off, and go do the
that's
dump
right.
fee and all that stuff yourself.
That's right. Yeah, and it's probably cheaper than they would after they're cutting everything into slices and the guys got to manhandle it and load it if they don't have loaders. But that's kind of the direction we're going to there into for Texas tree transformations is just getting more contracts and increasing our profit margin. I'm always watching those numbers and just making sure that that's it. Seeing how we can be any more efficient, right? That's it. That's what I try to do and set the team up for success. I guess I'm so grateful for the team that we have. But yeah, then I'm looking forward to talking about Elite Fire Pro on the next podcast. But
Yeah,
I
sounds
just
awesome.
always, yeah, something else I want to talk to if people hear this podcast is I want y'all to understand that, and I'm telling you, between, relationships and everything, man, I've had millions of dollars worth of these learning lessons that I feel like that I can save you on. I would love to talk to you. If you're interested and you look us up, Texas Tree Transformations on Instagram or Facebook. If you have a question or anything, let's just talk about tree care. And I tell you, I'm not preaching to you. I'm just telling you what worked for me and what hasn't worked for me. I'm just a redneck, ex-drug addict person that God allowed to transform his life and come out here and do this. So my mission is, as you see, transform more. I want to transform more than trees. I want to transform lives. That's a goal. I want to be super profitable so I can do that more. So
That's awesome, man. Thanks for offering that. That's anybody can, I think, transform their life, and you're a huge testament to that. And what you're doing is awesome. I think you're putting out positivity in the tree care world and the industry.
mhm.
People need to follow you, man, on social media. And like you said, what we'll do is we can put your contact information in the show notes of the podcast
Yeah.
and YouTube video. And then if you guys follow Kyle Cox on Instagram, Facebook, you'll see a lot of
Yeah.
postings and a lot of good examples of what you should be doing free on social media to get more business, to get more attention in your local market. And I
Yes,
can't
sir.
wait to do the next one, man. We'll schedule it and we'll go over Kyle's new Lead Fire Pro app for the tree care industry to get more targeted customers coming in, right? From things that you
Yeah.
see out in the field.
Yes, sir. I
So that'll be
appreciate
great.
the opportunity to be on Tree Service Digital. I know, like I said, it took a while to get on here, but I'm really glad. I love, you help me, point the direction because when I talk about helping people, that's really where my heart goes. So I feel like that you're delivering a maximum amount of service here too, trying to help people in business. You can tell talking to you about your character. So I like that a lot. You're a real sincere person. So talking to you. So I'm
Appreciate
glad,
it, man.
glad
Yeah.
I got this. So and you're
That,
very, very informative on all your social media. I mean, all the stuff that you do, and I love the consistency with this podcast. I mean, there's just a lot of people start the podcast and they just stop, and you've consistency, brother. That's where it's at. So you got that whipped.
Thank you. We try to get more guests on, and it gets tougher as the season gets busy.
Yeah.
Sometimes during the slow season and the cold winter months, it's easier. And then people get, they get buried with work and everything else with their business. But yeah, man, thanks so much for being on and sharing your knowledge. I know it's going to help a lot of people. And we'll schedule the next one coming up real soon. And again, guys, if you're on the YouTube channel, if you're on the podcast, like and subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, leave a like. It helps out the algorithm, helps us out a great deal. And we will see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the Tree Service Marketing Profits Podcast. If you're serious about growing your tree service business, visit treeservicedigital.com to learn how Tree Service Digital helps companies just like yours dominate online and explode their business. Don't forget to download the ultimate internet marketing checklist at treeservicedigital.com/checklist and join the community inside the Tree Service Marketing Secrets Facebook group. Until next time, keep climbing, keep cutting, and keep growing your profits.